A very good morning to you. And I suppose, yes, an emotional day, that poignant moment for many people. I suppose the question has to be, where were you 29 years ago? I was in high school. Where were you, and what are your memories of the day?
You're trying to show up my age here, Rebecca, but I was in high school too. But just to take you back a little bit, Victor Verster at the time was a farm prison. It was seen as a holding area, if you like, for low-risk political prisoners. And his move here in 1982, he was transferred from Robben Island, then to Pollsmoor, and then to Victor Verster. And it was seen as a sort of a conciliatory gesture. That was on the 9th of December 1988. He was put into a house here. He was given a cook and a cleaning person who were also guards who kept an eye on him. But he was still quite perturbed because he felt, despite these conciliatory gestures, he was still very much a political prisoner. And on the 2nd of February, then President F.W. de Klerk announced that they were going to release Nelson Mandela, one of South Africa's most wanted men, the most dangerous man in South Africa, but nobody knew exactly what date he was going to be released. On the 11th of February, the ANC in the Western Cape was told that Nelson Mandela was going to be released the following day. So on the 10th of February, he called a meeting, and on the 11th of February, he was going to be released. And literally there was chaos because there had to be a plan, and they had 24 hours here in Cape Town to make up this plan. 4:30 a.m. Nelson Mandela, as usual, gets up out of bed. He does his stretches, he does his exercises. His release form was signed at 7:48 a.m. and it was supposed to be all systems go. But I've got here with me Faiz Jacobs, who was detained at Victor Verster when he was 15 years old. Good morning, Faiz. You're now the Provincial Secretary here in the Western Cape of the ANC. You were detained here at Victor Verster, 24 hours notice. You were one of the marshals. You guys weren't ready for this. I mean, this was one of the biggest occasions in the party's history, and you're given 24 hours notice.
Yes, good morning, and to all your viewers out there. Yes, it was a momentous occasion. We were part of that Mandela Release Committee, so we called for his release all the time, but we were all surprised, and we were in late-night meetings, and as usual, we pulled things together. We had an arrangement for marshalling around the route where he was meant to come. There was that historic scenes as he was released with Winnie walking out.
What was that like, Mr. Jacobs?
It was very, very nostalgic, very, very significant. Our political history will be written before and after that event. 29 years on, I think it's important that we remember that the iconic moment where he walked out, his first steps of freedom, walking out. Behind the scenes there was chaos, but on the day everything was excited. People were excited to see the man, the icon that we all struggled for. It was a culmination of the people's struggles, the daily struggles, and the international isolation of apartheid. So all of these were culmination events. Everybody has their story. So if you ask today, waar was jy, where were you on the day, the 11th of February 1990, everybody would say, look, I was either preparing myself on the parade, we were waiting for him, or I was a marshal on the route, or I was part of leadership. At that time I was very young, so I wasn't part of the senior UDF leadership. They would have been part of the receiving end, but we all were excited. We as young people, we fought for this moment, and so I was a marshal on the parade. We had a lot of mishaps on the day, but I think who can forget that iconic moment when Mandela addressed us on that morning.
And we'll come back to that moment in one of our next crossings. But just before we end, and what we'll bring you next, is that Mr. Mandela's release form was signed at 7:48, but the late Winnie's plane from Johannesburg was delayed. Everything was meant to take off here from 10 a.m., but the plane was delayed. But Mr. Mandela was very relaxed, and as the ANC committee started arriving, he decided to make everybody a cup of tea. But we'll bring you more on that in our next crossing here from Victor Verster, now called the Groot Drakensberg Correctional Centre.
Yeah, as in true Madiba style. You'd imagine that that's what he'd do. Thank you very much, Annika Larsen. She'll bring us events throughout the day. This day, 29 years ago, when Madiba walked free from there.